Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the First Four or More with your boy HSR.
And your boy Chris Chrome.
What's up, it's Syd.
All right, so if you don't care about anything I'm about to say, in the description, I'll put a link where you can skip ahead this little bullshit and actually start the review. But we want to talk about a contest to grind to 1,000 subscribers effort that we're putting together. We want to pull this off before the new year if possible. So if you want to show some love and you subscribe and then you like the video and you make a comment about this particular review or the Orville in general, you are eligible to win some Amazon money and then request review something. And we're figuring out the fine tunes of that very shortly.
Don't worry, we're going to pay out.
Yeah, we will. At least the money part's solid, and then you'll also get to request a review of an album. Probably not a TV show, maybe a movie. If you have a movie you want us to cover.
That'd be cool.
So you can do an album or a movie, and we'll put that off for each of the places. There'll be $100 Amazon money for first place in USD. Just in case you were wondering, I'm not going to be cheap. And if you're in Canada, we'll figure it out.
That'll be like 117.
Yeah, some shit like that. $50 second place plus the request.
67 if you're in Canada.
$25 third place plus the request.
Like
and then that way it's a little more
Canada.
engaging for you. The contest description a little more defined below. And yeah, so just to let you know about that. On that note, this is the show where we just... Oh, one more thing on the contest. I know I'm getting used to saying this. Is that for every video that you like and comment on the channel, you get an extra raffle ticket to potentially win. So remember, comment has to be about the review or about whatever we're talking about. So on that note, this is the one where we go into
join the convo.
The Orville, and we discuss all that fun Orville stuff. And we, as you can see, it's definitely on the or more side, as this is episode 10, titled Firestorm.
It's been a fucking grind.
Yes, we're almost done the Orville. So if you want to see something different, we're going to need to plug this recording with another show. So if you care about, I don't know, The Punisher or something like that, and you want to see us talk about it, holla at us.
That's pretty cool.
Don't forget, if the first time you guys are here, you might want to check up on episode 1 somewhere over there.
Yeah, it'll be in the corner.
So
2,
follow
3,
along with us
4,
and catch up
5,
where we are.
6.
You know what? I put the playlist instead, so you can just run through it, and then you can just skip to the episodes you care about. From what I've noticed, based on the view count, certain episodes people care more about than other ones. Maybe Firestorm is one you care about. Maybe you like episode 6. I don't know.
Also,
let us know in the comments below.
Fun fact, this season was cut short. It was originally going to be 13 episodes. Now it's only 12. So we're getting to the end. We're almost there.
Is that?
Yeah. So
can we say we're getting to the end or we're getting to the forced end?
This is like
I don't know how 12 is going to be now.
Well, I feel like
they're still going to air the season, like the original season finale, but they're going to air it next season somewhere in the middle of it.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be one of those like
weird
episodes,
oh, this is the ending but not the ending middle part of season 2.
So like Fringe did it. They I don't know if you guys ever watched Fringe, but they had an episode where there was a character who died, without giving away too many spoilers. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of an episode in like the 3rd or 4th season, like halfway through the season, where he's just there, and you're like what's going on, you know? Like, and then you look it up and you find out that they'd filmed this episode and they didn't really have anywhere to put it, or for whatever time constraints, so they stuck it in the middle of this next season. So that's what they're doing for the season finale of the Orville. They're gonna kind of stick it.
Maybe they'll open the season with it in true style.
Nope.
Well, we'll see.
It's gonna be interesting.
No spoilers for Fringe, but we are going to be spoiling this episode of the Orville, so we don't have the warning sign yet, but it's going to happen.
I also just told you that people die in Fringe. So
spoilers.
I spoiled.
So let's talk about this episode. We're gonna run through the plot and then we'll just kind of comment on it, and then that's what we do for like however long this one turns out to be. So it starts off with the ship is under attack and shit's bad. And it's not like it's under attack. They're in like some storm thing, and it's all electrical. And it was kind of nothing really noteworthy, except that Malloy says it looks like a screensaver, which I thought was kind of funny because it did look like a screensaver.
Very CGI, very...
like a freaking old school screensaver.
Is that really the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, it's just like full...
Okay.
And then there's
right
like this big
magic.
explosion, and there's damage. And there are problems down there, and they stabilize some inducers, and then the pillar falls on the guy. They call for Alara because they can't move the pillar. She runs. Like, there's a lot of scenes of Alara running up the hall so far in this show. And then she gets in the room.
She's the only one who can do physical things, apparently.
So she gets to the room, and then she's going to go in. She sees fire, and she just, like, freezes up.
Well, it's not just fire. There's, like, an explosion right in front of her, and she's like...
So it's like a wall of fire, and it's scary.
And you kind of like you see what's going on inside her head a little bit. Like you hear distant voices, but she's like really disconcerted. Like
And then after that, she gets over it. The fire's not as bad. She goes and pulls the thing up, and the dude's dead. And then it's just kind of like this dark ass fucking start, and she kind of looks all distraught and beat up, and then it like flows into the credits, and you just get the sense of it's an Alara episode again, which I'm questioning that choice, you know, because this is like her third episode that she's gotten in this season.
But you know, and she's clearly one of the more interesting characters, and it's too bad because
there's like
you got the sense that some of the other characters there's just not that much to develop. Like she is. Like she's the youngest. She's from a planet where she has, you know, very obvious physical differences to the rest of the crew. She, you know, between her and Bortus, you know, they're just like
they're
the doctor.
Human.
They're not that. She's not that interesting. They tried. Isaac's cool. He's a robot, but like.
So let me just interject there with a second. You're right about the character development, but there's a whole other thing they could be developing, and that's the world that they're in.
Yeah.
And maybe the relationships between the Union and a new species they encounter that could interact with them, and it's not just.
I have more on that later in the episode because I agree with you, and I'm annoyed about this episode for that reason.
And it's almost like that's what I want to say. So. In and of itself, the episode, I don't actually have an issue with. But, yeah, no, it seems like a very strangely placed episode in the season. Anyway, so then the credits end, and we cut over to Mercer giving a speech to the crew. And then the eulogy is given by Newton. I now know the name of engineering guy.
Yeah, right. I like it. I like how they're doing the funeral speech in, like, a hallway.
Well,
like
it's in the hangar bay where like they would do that kind of thing, right?
And I do want to say they handle it very well. Like they handle the death of a character very well. They don't ignore it.
Well, they made a stupid pun. They
made a stupid pun, but it's the kind of thing you would say at a funeral, right?
It's like
I had a buddy who died, and
Newton gives like the anecdote. First, he contextualizes they've been like buddies since they were at summer camp. Right. Yeah. They went through. Then he makes like a joke about how he died in a lot of pain.
Well, what he said, because the guy's name was something pain, right? So he's and it's funny because he died in a lot of pain, and then he kind of goes right away. You know, that's the kind of thing he would find funny before any of you jump all over me. Like this was his sense of humor.
Yeah. So
and that felt really real to me. Like that's
exactly.
A friend is giving.
Do you think that's appropriate?
Yes.
Like, just because I feel like there's some people who would think that's not appropriate.
But that's why he said it. He's like, look, I know the guy. I'm telling you straight up, this is the kind of right way to honor him.
I don't know if you guys have ever seen. Do you guys know Monty Python?
Yes. I'm not a big fan.
I don't remember. I think it was. The internet's gonna jump all over me. I used to be a huge Monty Python fan. One of them died, and John Cleese spoke at his funeral, and this is a real live funeral, and he said, and I have this to say to him: good riddance, you idiot. I hope I never see you again. Fuck you. And he said, I say that because he would hate me if I missed this opportunity to shock you and to give you a piece of his sense of humor. And this is a real example of that. Like that really happened. So I felt this was.
Like, at the same time, it's like when you consider your funeral, don't you want it to kind of like, I don't know if you've ever thought about it, but you want it to be a little bit of an extension of who you are. You don't want people to be all fake about it.
You don't want people to be like, you was the best person ever.
I actually love the authentic nature. And it's not like this is some top brass commander guy. Mercer did that part, but then he comes in. He's the best friend, probably best man at the wedding type shit. Yeah. And he dropped a personal, like, this is who he is. I thought it was super appropriate, and I agree with him. It was well executed. And then it gets a little cheesy as it pans over Alara crying, but it also makes total sense. It's cheesy, but like it's not like over the top in badness because it's trying to like emphasize that she feels personal responsibility for this situation.
Yeah, like had she not frozen, she maybe could have gotten to the pillar in time.
They're really driving home I also feel like they're driving home the sense that Alara knows she's like stronger than a lot of people, especially on the ship in the world that she's in right now, and she's dealing with that not understanding what fear she has, because the fear that we all see in the beginning is the fact that she's afraid of fire. But we don't really know why yet. We don't understand, and we're getting to that.
So we'll get to that.
No, of course. But I'm saying that you can. They're really trying to drive that home right now.
They're trying to drive home that she was affected deeply by this situation, by her inadequacy or whatever. And then we know it's a little more of her frustration because in literally the next scene, she's in a gym fighting a bag, like a punching bag, and then she hits it so fucking hard it explodes. She turns, and Kelly and Claire are over there. They end the simulation and start talking to her like Kelly's like, it's not your fault. Then the doctor's like, the autopsy makes it clear you didn't cause it. He was already dead or based on the injuries at the initial point. Alara then's like, no, but you don't understand. I froze up. And she's trying to like be like, I caused this. And they're like, look, you did what anyone else could have do. In fact, it was a smart command decision because you didn't put yourself in risk. Very proud of you. And then she's like scared and like Alara's scared of fire. She doesn't really know why. She feels guilty. Then it gets fucking amazing. Like,
wait, hang on. Did we miss the part where Mercer's like, okay, good. Because this was a cute part.
Well, then Lamar and Malloy walk in, dressed, ready to go, with their like revolvers and like what, clearly 18th century, or 17th or 19th century shit. Go. And then they walk in and they're like, oh, are you guys done soon? We have it at like 3. They're like, can you leave? Like, clearly there's some seriously emotional shit happening. And Lamar and Mercer are just so oblivious. They're like, you know what? What's the point of reservations then? You know what? Why even bother? And they like kind of walk out and shit. And then
Alara's just kind of like, let me do my thing.
And then, she restarts the program, kicks Kelly and Claire out. And then as she's going in, Bortus walks in and goes...
It's like full-on, like 17th century, with the, like, fancy man attire, white wig, like...
Am I early? And that was the first of many Bortus moments in this episode.
Bortus shines in this episode.
But
that's not what I was asking. Did we miss Mercer writing? Okay, good.
Then Malloy... then we cut to Mercer writing a letter to the guy who has just died.
Writing a letter to his family.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant. And then Malloy points out that his letter kind of sucks. He starts it off with, your son was such a neat guy.
And Mercer's like defending that, like, but he was a neat guy. I'm not lying about that.
And Malloy's like, that's kind of lame. Like, you could instead take like his career and put it down almost like his
resume.
Malloy guy's like, you know what? That's kind of lame. That's when he like really defends it and like holds on to it. And then
I felt he was neat.
Lara kind of interrupts it, and Malloy's like, Mercer's like, can you? And Malloy's like, yeah, get Kelly to write this. And then he like leaves. It was too funny. Because like, you've never seen the captain suck so bad at this in one of these shows. Amazing.
But like, it happens, right? Because it happens in real life. Mm-hmm. Like office managers or whatever have to write these letters of condolences when shit happens in their offices. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're real people.
Yeah.
Right? So like,
and then Alara interrupts. She's like, I want to resign. She's like, I'm unfit. And she's like, I was too afraid to do my job. Mercer then tries to like reassure her and all of this and that, and she's like committed to the idea that her fear caused this. And then Mercer says one of the wise anecdotes that more people should consider.
This is really cool.
That being brave, people often believe that being brave is the absence of fear, but it's impossible to be brave unless you are afraid, is essentially what he says. I didn't directly quote it. And then he proceeds to point out that she is like far beyond how he expected. And 6 months ago, he met her and thought she'd just be a crappy kid, blah, blah, blah. He's amazing. He's the only one that, like, she's the only one he wants to protect her if bad things happen. Refuses her resignation, but gives her, like, time to figure it out. And then she, like, walks out. I don't really think I missed much there.
No, it's pretty much it. The only thing is, I like how Mercer is handling the situation. He's not trying to tell her that she's wrong. I feel like Kelly and Claire in the previous scene when Alara was fighting was just punching the punching bag, they were kind of just telling her like, no, like not physically you're wrong, but like you're wrong. It's not your fault, you know. They weren't really acknowledging how she felt, and I think Mercer's there like, look, I get how you feel, I understand, but this philosophy is what I'm going to respond with because this is what you need to understand. I mean, I'm not like, I don't want you to
for the most part, like I think Mercer has been portrayed as like he's a good captain. He makes the right call most of the time.
I feel there's a sprinkle of father, of parent.
But
I feel like
also,
like Alara's kind of like the kid.
Add to that a little bit. Yeah. By the time that these two scenes have transpired, Claire and Kelly would have had time to have updated Mercer on her state before she walked in, right? So I doubt he was completely blind to the situation and he actually had enough information to react accordingly.
Maybe, but even at that, like he had enough information.
I'm not trying to dismiss it. I'm
saying because now you're speculating. Like that's not necessarily true. But like either way, he would have had enough information just based on the fact that he knew she was involved with the death. Like he knew how close she was to the situation. He knew more or less what happened.
A fair assumption.
And he knows Alara as well. So like he knows that she's going to be going through.
Anyway, so then Alara calls up her parents to like find out what's up. And they were like, well, this is what you get when you chose this physical line of work. And then we find, I know they want her to come back and to get a degree, and that on her planet she's kind of mentally deficient. They point out she's slow. And what's interesting is her father is the guy who plays the Doctor on Star Trek Voyager. So I thought that was a cool little cameo.
Nice.
For those who recognize that. And in case I didn't say it, yeah, Claire was on Deep Space Nine. Oof, I love that. Seth gets
So
real
much Star
Trek integrated into this show. It makes me happy. And then they kind of point out that she's been dumb and she's being mocked for being a military person, etc. And then she's kind of like, yeah, but the humans in this culture find that an honorable thing. And they're like, yeah, the humans, the hillbillies of the galaxy, which I thought was funny.
That was funny.
And then they proceed to tell, like, go ahead. Because
I like how Alara and her entire race, by extension, right, are much stronger in weaker gravity. So her parents would also be just as strong in other atmospheres, and yet they're the ones telling her, how I can't believe you chose this physical line of work, right? I really like that.
That's what I wanted to touch upon. It's oh my god, this is gonna sound fucked, but in this type of reality or this type of universe, it works because Alara is stronger without the gravity, right? But think of it in this, oh my god, think of it in this weird way of like the situation you're in. Now, the position I'm in right now, whatever situation, relationship, job, or something that I'm dealing with is different compared to what you're dealing with or what you've dealt with. Now, split that up into two worlds. I'm strong in this world, you're regular in that world, right? Cool. That is like a link that I connected to both on why the parents don't quite understand where she's coming from.
I'm gonna just go and look at it a little differently. I think that she's only strong in this world because she has an unfair advantage that literally everyone else in her race has. Yeah. But on her world, she is the equivalent of the kid who got held back in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade.
I understand, but I'm connecting that to that. Like, let's say even
her parents aren't lacking the empathy. They're saying, look, you're trying to justify the fact that you had to go take, like, she's like the equivalent of a garbage man in their eyes. Like, you couldn't cut it on our world, so you're doing this garbage man, disgusting, like, you're not even trying. You're just taking the easy way out. You could instead come home, take some time, figure it out. And she's like, you're right. She's saying, you don't understand. I take a lot of pride in my work and stuff.
I'm taking it like making music. Like, making music's that risk, you know?
It's not a risk. We're saying, like, the equivalent of you took the complete easy way out is how her parents frame it. Like, you're not even trying. You went and did this easy thing where you're not even whatever.
And it's the classic trope of, like, no matter how hard or in real life even how hard you try, your parents are always going to down talk to you, because it's not like she's just a military worker. Like, she is in charge. She has made it. She's the youngest.
Like, she's captain.
She's head of security, but she's the youngest person on the ship ever. With any position of authority.
You know what it is?
She has made it to something that's to be proud of.
I'm connecting it like, I'm the manager of a McDonald's when my father owns Ubisoft.
Well, it's
like that. It's like to my father,
it's a little bit different.
You're a manager, but of McDonald's.
I would see it as more like my father owns Microsoft, and I'm the youngest person in charge at Apple, but my father doesn't recognize Apple as a valid line of work.
See, I would even look at it. It's more like, your father owns Microsoft. He's offered to, like, give you the tools you need to get there, even if it's going to take you. Because the problem is that she can't compete on her own world. She's slower than everyone else, and she could never have that level of success on her planet.
But the thing is, it could also just be that she doesn't care about what everyone else on her, because she's not a dumb person. Like, she's actually pretty intelligent. You've seen that from the show.
But we have no relative scope to how smart her people are. What her parents tell us is, compared to her people, she is not as smart, or at least academically.
But that's her parents. That's her parents.
But
we're saying relative to her planet
that we don't have any connection to her world.
And she kind of acknowledges it too. Like, you almost get the sense that she's like the dumb athlete, and that's frowned upon in her society. So she's not very smart, but she is particularly good at other things. But the things she's particularly good at aren't impressive on her home world, is, I think, and it is an interesting conversation of priorities, don't get me wrong. I just don't think it's maybe as comparable as choosing to be a YouTuber or a rapper in 2017.
Well, I was just trying
that's surprisingly a viable thing if you play the content marketing
I was just trying to bring up the fact of, like,
hint. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
I was just trying to touch upon like just the psychology behind how like kids and teenagers feel in their situations, and how people don't quite understand. But there's like a miscommunication between, like, the teenagers and the parents.
Yes, But I think it's more of a cultural thing where it's more like in Europe this is okay, but it's frowned upon. That thing's frowned upon, and over here it's completely different. Is a better way to compare it. So she went to a whole other country. Like let's say. I don't know, you're in some country where academics is the most important thing in the world, and you immigrate to, say, America, and you become a proper capitalist, but you don't have your degrees. But in your country, degrees are the most important thing. So since you didn't get your degrees, who cares about what your success are? You know, I think that's a greater way to make it more of a realistic. It's the college dropout. It's the degrees thing. Yeah. And so anyway, we reviewed that if you care. So it's up in the thingy. So anyway,
but don't
my degrees will help me when I die. They will keep me warm.
I think now we've established how to we have run
sorry
this
for the tangent,
death.
guys.
That's okay. So then that scene's still not done. So we find out then there's the story of how her mom and her when she was a baby and there was some fire and she cried and woke her mom up, and because of this her mom was able to save her. So in a sense her waking up saved everyone, and it was traumatic and they never told her about it because she was a baby, and what's the fucking point? And then as she's like calling them on this, her dad's like, I need you to settle like a thing for us before you go. Have I lost weight?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, amazing. Like her parents are just like, this is so trivial. Like they act like geniuses, like the socially unaware, callous genius type that gets put on every show when that person has super genius parents. Anyway, then we're on the bridge and Alara walks on up the hallway and sees a clown, and it's just like standing there, and then
looking like Pennywise.
Yeah, it rushes her.
Well, like
it pushes her,
version.
And then the clown like runs up the hall, and then the clown's gone. And then we're on the bridge, and Alara walks in and is like, I need to be relieved immediately. She's not feeling well. She needs to check herself into psych, blah, 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 blah.
They're like, what's going on? She's like, I saw a clown.
And then Lamar's like, what did you just say? I don't like clowns.
But like,
Then somebody was like, did the clown speak? And Lamar's still freaking out. Malloy is like, what kind of clown? And then she's like, well, there are kinds of clowns. And it's like, is it a hobo clown? Lamar's like, hobo clowns are the most dangerous because they are hungry.
Well, before
funny
that, I wanted to just say that Mercer says a nice, did you write down what Mercer says to her?
Mercer's like, usually someone knows that they're going crazy because this happened right after that. They know they aren't, and then they go and check and see that there was, in fact, a clown on the monitors. And that was just funny because it establishes Lamar's fear of clowns, and the way it happens is really fucking funny. Everything about it is so funny.
But it's great too because he comforted her in terms of like, because I agree with the way his thinking was. I agree with the philosophy. If you can acknowledge that you're going crazy, then you're actually pretty insane. You're pretty sane.
Yeah.
Because
so
if you believe,
you might be right.
You know, like if you believe that there's an actual clown, you might not think you're crazy. You just go along with it, which makes you crazy.
Yeah.
So I was just very like, okay, I like that they put that way of thinking in there. That was
it
really
also just shows that Mercer is is following up on how to handle this clearly intense situation for her.
And he's not. Again, I want to emphasize just one thing. Sorry to cut you off, but again, he's not going direct with it. I felt again, Kelly and Claire were very like, it's not your fault, blah blah blah. He's still like,
but Kelly and Claire didn't have the information when they started of that she was afraid, and she told Mercer right away. That's not speculation.
Okay.
Changes how the interaction goes, because Kelly and Claire find out halfway through the conversation she felt like that, and at first they were trying to reassure her with an understanding that she had just made a proper command decision.
Fair.
So the two conversations aren't comparable to me because of the information available to each person. I digress. Then they're looking and they see the clown. Lamar's like,
on the camera, not in real.
Yeah, like on this like screen where they're watching the hallway. Lamar's like, I don't want to lurk. Bordas is like, I see the clown. Then Lamar freaks out and looks, and he's like, oh, I didn't want to look. And it's kind of like spooky, and they check that there was a human that was this clown on the ship at the time of that, but then there was no extra human on the ship, so this was just like the clown appeared. And Mercer is like, we're going to divide into teams. Isaac is going to run point from here. And then Malloy drops, I don't know if I like this line or I hate this line, but I can't help but note it. Captain, I think it's only prudent to caution everyone to be alert for pies.
I love this.
And then Seth replies like really serious, like given the circumstances, yes. And then he just lists a bunch of clown shit.
Pies, seltzer bottles, like buzz, fucking like whatever.
It was I don't know.
Because it makes sense, right? It makes sense. We just saw a clown appear and disappear. So yes, be on the lookout for anything possibly ridiculous.
I do want to shout out though, nice It reference. The It movie just kind of dropped. The clown looks like It a little bit.
I didn't see it.
So
the thing is
I was
too,
like,
and I really like it because a lot of people are a lot of people in the clown industry. I don't know if you read about this. Are like blaming Stephen King for like ruining clowns for kids, and it's not like Stephen King made up that people are afraid of clowns.
No.
You know what I mean? In the 80s,
in fact. I would say that just the fact that clowns are creepy as fuck and there's better entertainment options, why bother? When you can have Princess Elsa show up for your little girl, why are you going to need a crown?
There's that. There's also the fact that 2 or 3 years ago there was a rash of creepy clowns showing up in the United States. Like people were just
there were those guys on
clowns.
YouTube who were dressing up all the clowns and pranking people a couple years before that. And clowns have
like,
been heavily associated with creepy shit outside of Stephen King for a long time. It has been established.
There's another series of movies. What the hell is his name? The killer clown. One is called Terrorizer.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway, clowns are fucking scary. It's not Stephen King's fault.
And it's all sorts of stuff. And yes, I'm happy you got that off your chest, Syd. So Bortus and Alara are paired up, and they go into the shuttle bay. She's like, lights on. It's spooky and dark. Bortus is going to check the upper level. She creeps around and sneaks around, and then the clown appears and is all creepy. He tackles her. The gun, like, flies out of her hand, and then the clown's gone, and then he appears behind her, and it's one of those scuffly scenes. They both go for the gun, and then the clown gets the gun, and then she trips him with a block, like, swings it like that. She gets the gun and shoots him, and then he evaporates because the gun was clearly set to kill. Then we're back in a room, and she apologizes for killing him. The clown had turned the gun up to kill. He was super strong. And then we get a vampire clown comment from somebody.
Yo, you stop with that, Lamar.
And then they turn the ship to yellow alert because nothing else can be done. They're like, let's stay on the lookout for more clown. Like, there's not a lot happening. It's just a lot of little scenes here.
But it's really like it's building up to be like, you know, this is going to be a horror themed episode.
Yeah,
well, absolutely.
And like the jump scares so far have been done really, really well. Like you're getting this sense of suspense.
I had to
comment.
make sure to watch it with the lights off because it was added effect.
I wanted to comment in the scene previous, before they're sitting in the boardroom having that conversation, while Laura's fighting the demonic clown. There's actually really good camera angles. Like there's some parts in this show where I was like, you could have done it a little bit better. I feel like there could have been a better angle, a better lighting to it. Fine, but this one was really well done. Like as
she's alone, there's the close up on her face. You can't see too much around her.
And I'm gonna call out something else a little bit later as well. But
we'll call it out later then.
Of course. But no, the part like the angle that they got the clown at from the bottom with the shadowing, I was like, okay, that was. I
agree with everything Chris said and didn't notice much of it.
On.
That's why you're here, buddy. To notice stuff.
Woo!
I don't hate Chris, as we've established.
Hashtag Holden doesn't hate Chris.
Well, maybe he doesn't, but you know.
Okay,
you guys
so Kelly and Alara are like walking up the hall, like, what's happening? Everything's kind of like confusing. Then Kelly's like, look, we're going to shower. Why don't we get a drink later? Everything's good. And then Kelly opens up the door to her room, and the vortex of doom is there, and she falls through.
The vortex of doom? Is that just what you're calling it?
It's just a big black hole, dude.
It's just the vortex of fucking doom.
It's just nothingness. Like, it's infinity.
And then
she falls.
She rescues her, and they're like, what the fuck was that? Then they're back in Mercer's office describing what happened. They realize something may be wrong with them psychologically. Then they're in the fucking medical bay, and they.
Well, hold on.
There was like,
hold on. It was. Mercer's still playing the. Everybody's kind of just on this little trip wave thing.
No, he's not. He's saying.
Hang on. What he's saying is, look, these things can't be possible, yet we are witnessing them.
Yes.
So either something is like bending the rules of reality.
I don't even think we've got to the bending of rules of reality part. Okay. He just said that because that's a conversation that happens.
Well, no, because he does say that
that's a conversation that happens when they're all together again in the room after. Because so what they've established, they're kind of like more here, but we all saw the clown. The ship clearly picks stuff up. Maybe something's wrong with our heads.
Yeah, like
maybe it's biological. Maybe there's whatever. Then they go to the med lab. Like that whole scene was like 2 seconds before they're in the med lab. And then
just Alara and and Claire are in the med lab. Yeah.
No. At that point, it's Kelly.
No, it's
and
Kelly,
Alara,
Mercer, Alara,
and Mercer,
and Claire.
and then they are all joined by Claire in the med lab. So they all start looking for options, and like this is where I love this line. And Mercer's listing a bunch of shit, and he goes, "Could someone have just put peyote in the food?" And we're all like stoned. Like just the fact that he would say that, it just cracked me the fuck up. Then shh, Bordes shows up. This is possibly my favorite one. It's so good. There is an alligator in the cargo bay. I successfully crushed it with a chair. I do not know. He's like, how did it get there? I do not know. Regardless, it is crushed.
Oh my god.
And then Claire
Please do that with more oomph.
Yeah, like
regardless, it is crushed.
Like you gotta get the proper pause.
There is an alligator in the cargo bay. I successfully crushed it with a chair.
Wait. How did it get there?
Crushed it with a chair.
I do not know. Regardless, it is crushed.
crushed.
Yeah, it's like that.
So perfect.
It was the goodest, boredest one yet. Then Claire agrees to do this brain scan because now that this alligator is showing up, it's clearly not just peyote in the food. There's some weird shit happening.
Because it's Bordes, right? Like,
Bordes isn't completely like crazy.
So then Alara lies down, and they're about to start the scan, and we find out everyone is at lunch. Then all of a sudden, she's like clamped with these restraints, and
she's like, Claire, why are you clamping me with restraints? And Claire's like,
and creepy, and it turns out the restraints are Alara proof, and Claire leaves
we go Alara can't break through the restraints.
And then Claire leaves to get her like instruments to surgerize her.
You get like a clear shot of like fucking scalpels.
And then like the nurse guy walks in, and Claire shoots him after she's like, no, this isn't normal. You shouldn't have had this happen. He gets shot and pulls out the tools. Then she goes on about how she's going to cut up through her abdomen. Is the best way to get to the brain scan. And then Alara breaks out, grabs Claire by the neck, throws her.
I never understand that.
A security detail.
I never understand that.
What?
I got these reinforced for you. They are not going to break.
Yeah, but we're coming from a perspective of like the fact that
because main character can't get hurt. Next.
No, it's even beyond that. I mean, she just said it was
that annoyed me too.
But like she said, it's super blah 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 proof. But then you got to take into consideration all the super strength you encounter when you have adrenaline at the point of death and all that shit. It's not unknown for people to do some seriously unhuman things in those moments. So even if it was Alara proof, either way, it's not.
It's like
it's a
super,
stretch.
like,
I just could it's such a
it's like
frivolous
1960s
thing.
Batman broke out of his.
But that's the point. The whole scene was terrible in that regard. I hated this scene. I understand why it was there.
I
was
loved
creepy.
the scene right up until that part.
Well,
And for me, it
actually
just
like
fit
the
with
scene
how
after
cliche
that.
everything was in. Look, I'm not saying it was bad. It was actually well executed for the cliche parody style it already was. It almost wouldn't have been the right parody without breaking it off.
This is new though. This is new because Holden hated this scene and me and Chris are defending it.
I know. This
Well,
And yet we also
actually,
hated something about it.
I like the scene. I like the scene after this when they have.
So then we see Claire is in a cell looking like super fucking mad, and
she did this. I just want to say she did this scene proper. She's
agree.
not mad. It's like
we've
this.
already established, Chris and I,
She's
that
like
she's a
crazy.
good
It's
actor. Sid disagreed.
I disagree.
No. I was
in
on the
this
fence
scene-
a little bit. I was on the fence a little bit about how Claire did her acting. There were some points where I was like, and there were some points I was like, okay, this scene, she's trapped in this cell, and she's just like this weird kitty, like not kitty, but like childish girl, but who's like sadistic and demonic, and she's kind of like joking, like a mix of Joker and Harley Quinn actually had a baby.
Yes,
And
I
then
really
she
like the
asks for
scene
pizza.
right up until she like starts doing the maniacal laugh, and then it was like, all right, you can stop. You can't do that.
And
Like,
then she asks for pizza, and then Bordes goes, "What kind of pizza?" And then Mercer's like, "No, not giving her pizza." Claire then gives some.
But you know what?
No, I listed all the creepy shit she said. Okay.
Right.
She said some really
Claire
legitimately
asked
creepy
if you ever sit and look out the window, stop to watch the darkness out there. It's very dark in space. It looks so empty. There are terrors looking all around us in the infinite shadows, and you can't see them, but they are there. Bordes goes, "If you have attempted to frighten us, you have failed." And then she looks at Alara and is like, "You have no idea what's coming for you." Then it's your laugh as Alara looks freaked out.
Yeah, the laugh pissed me
I
off.
think Bordes should have been like, if you're attempting to scare us, it worked. It would have added another kick Bordes line just because you know how tough Bordes is.
That would have been un-Bordes-like. Whereas when they
Really?
use it, I would have
Like
been
Bordes
just...
doesn't get scared by
Why
this
would
shit.
Bordes...
He's just like,
Exactly. He's like,
I know
whatever.
that space is dark. I am Bordes. Like,
Yeah, no. There are times...
Okay.
We'll talk about that later on. I want to
Okay.
address that at the end of the episode, Christopher.
I do do because
Okay.
I want to call back to this scene too once we get to the big reveal.
Anyway,
All right.
so then
Wait, before we go. Since we are talking about Bortus, I do like how Bortus is still respecting the doctor, even though he could see that she's a little crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't understand. I don't feel like he fully understands
I
what's
feel
going
like
on.
Bortus
'cause
doesn't understand the culture of any of these people, so often he'll just react in a very like, my job is to respond to things. So if she asks for pizza, I can be useful. I can get pizza. More like, and he kind of has that approach to many things.
Like just
Captain,
be helpful
I will
and
not fail
assisting.
you. I'll put nuts and water on the table. You know, like.
I will not fail you. Yeah.
So anyway, then they're back all at that very same table, assembled, and they're brainstorming. And then they're describing maybe we're in some purgatory, and then both Kelly and Mercer are like, purgatory is like marriage. That's how you can describe it.
I like how
But
they're
nobody
joking
else
about
can
it.
kind of like relate to it except for those
But
two.
I like how they're joking around about it because
Oh, they were deadpan
it's-
serious, man.
Well, I know they're dead serious, but it's not like they're trying to kill each other right now. They're kind of
In purgatory.
But that's it. This is the conversation
Joking
where they're
about
like,
it,
what
like,
could be happening? Like
Yeah,
maybe
and
the
then-
walls of reality.
So maybe the plasma storm
Yeah.
impacted the walls of blah, blah, blah. And there's a cute line of talking out of her ass. And then Isaac's like, well, maybe you can enunciate more clearly. And then
You
she's
should
like,
try to
because-
enunciate
Okay,
properly.
I need to lay that out more proper because it's actually really funny. She says, I'm gonna sound like I'm talking out of my ass right now, and Isaac, the robot who doesn't understand these jokes, goes, well, then maybe you should enunciate. Like, it's just
Well,
Yeah,
you
it
should
was
try
perfect.
to
It's
enunciate.
funnier when you see it happen.
but it is perfect. It's
It
right in
is
character
really-
with
it-
Isaac. It's great.
And it was good to see a good Isaac line to add to all that Bortis.
Yeah.
And then the electrical storm, they think caused some rift in reality. Then a bunch of fucking spiders appear on the table and Mercer freaks the
so
fuck
this
out.
is the part where I close my eyes.
Yeah, it was freaky. And
Yeah,
then
Chris couldn't
Malloy
watch the
Malloy runs out screaming. He acted like Chris. And they all leave the room. Only Mercer grabs a fucking gun. That really, I'm like, come on, there's a bunch of motherfucking spiders.
there's
Mercer
a reason,
by him.
but
At the
there's
same
a
time,
reason.
what are you gonna do?
No, but there's
There's
a
a
reason.
bunch of spiders. There's like
That's what I'm
thousands of
saying.
spiders. One
Throughout-
gun. Like, no,
Anyway,
you're
I'll
done.
talk about it later.
So talk about it later, because there's no... Anyway, so then they go back into the room, and the spiders are all fucking gone. And then at that point, Mercer's like, everyone's going to have to stay armed. Make sure everyone needs guns. And then they're going to check for scans, and Alara and Gordon are to... Gordon is the first time I've said that, but that's Malloy.
Yeah.
Are to report down to engineering to make it all good. So... I don't see why that. They all should have ran and grabbed guns because there's a million fucking spiders, and I'd expect all of you to grab guns with me if we're ever in that moment, so we can all blast at spiders and hope to get out of there alive because that would scare the shit out of me personally.
Absolutely. The
We'll see.
reason is...
I mean,
So that
look,
was weird.
Door
And
closed,
we-
spiders contained for the time being until we open the door again. It like let's get our heads together, figure the fuck out what, and then he opens the door and the spiders are gone. So problem solved. Next.
And then,
I will address it later.
then Alara and Malloy are in the hallway, and Malloy starts freaking out, and he's like, I didn't sign up for this. And-
No, hang on. No, he doesn't start freaking out yet.
Oh, yeah, you're right. She's talking about all the things, like they could lay eggs in your brain and all this other shit. And Alara's like, shut up, and stays calm, like tries to reflect. They're both kind of freaked out. Malloy's like, look, it wasn't your fault, you know, blah, 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 this whole
Gives her the
death.
same speech that everyone else has given her, pretty much.
But he does it in more of the friendly kind of
Yeah.
way. And then a monster spider pops out of the fucking elevator. They shoot
just
it,
like,
nothing. They choose to run. The spider chases them. Then
This is when
Malloy is
Malloy
like,
is
goes,
like-
I quit. I can't work here. And then the spider eats him and runs away. And then Alara kind of collapses and reports his death. And I was like,
you're not.
And
they're
this
not
is-
killing off a main character.
This
right
is
now.
where
Like, you
shit
know
starts
this.
getting weird because exactly you're like you're killing a main character in season 1.
no.
But obviously they're not, because you
But
know
that's-
this isn't that type of show. So
that's what
B,
I'm
you're
saying.
like they're gonna try and flip this around in an annoying way.
But then there's
right
also,
now.
just
Like,
to be clear, just because the spider gobbled him up, there's a million ways.
there's
other
a million
than the
ways
way
that he could have survived. Yeah,
without
you're right.
the one
Fair.
that they chose to do. So anyway, then Alara comes raging into the bridge. There's no answer. She goes up the
There's
stairs.
nobody. Like,
Well, there's
like,
nobody
no
in the
one.
bridge
There's
either.
no one. I just said that. Yeah,
You said
sorry.
no answer. There's
No,
just
first
no
she
people.
she calls in like, hey, what's going on? There was no answer. Then
Mm-hmm.
she goes, runs up the stairs. Then she realizes there's like no one. I did write no one after that. She starts trying to fiddle with shit. She tries to contact engineering. Nothing. No answer.
Mm-hmm.
Then they hit the electrical storm. Because in the middle of this, sorry, we forgot to mention, they decide to go back into the electrical storm and they need to do some shit with engineering in order to make the deflectors work or the whole ship's going to get fucking wrecked.
Well,
Going
the
back in
energy
there
storm,
to try and see if they can find the
Yeah,
source of what the fuck.
The energy storm is gonna give them
Well, that's what
They
Syd said.
assume that the energy is
What
going to
Syd
give
said.
them energy to find whatever it is.
No, they don't
Yeah,
know
he
what's
said it
wrong.
without swearing.
What Syd said was the right one. Then they go They go into a dark hallway with lightning. Then he goes into a dark conference room and it's spooky. Into another room, back into the hall.
This is still all just Alara because there's no one else.
There's no one else. And I didn't write notes because it's just like her by herself going into places and seeing no one. And then into engineering, and again, no one is there. And then Isaac is just creepily sitting there in the corner, and they start discussing the situation, etc. She tries to pull up the ship's log. She's asking him what's going on. He has no ideas. The shortest 4 minutes in the world happens, but it's going to take 4 minutes for the power transfer. She laments on Gordon's death, and Isaac is like, stay focused in case of whatever, and mentions the creature. She calls him on his knowledge of the creature. She's like, how'd you know? Realizes
And like
Isaac...
up until now, it's been creepy. Like they've been like the soundtrack has been implying creepiness,
Yeah.
but
Well,
Isaac is still being Isaac.
Okay,
You know
hold
what I
on,
mean?
Hold on.
No.
Before you go in, then she realizes Isaac is behind it all, and then if you want to cut him before they fight...
At this point, even before they fight, and we're going to get into that, I don't trust Isaac only
because of the stuff he said.
Yeah.
Well,
like the show is setting you up to not trust
That's-
Isaac.
that's
First
it.
off,
That's
he's the only one
exactly
left on
it.
the
It's
ship.
like-
How? Like,
but not only that. I feel like if it was truly Isaac, right? Like the robot we all love and care for, he would have approached it differently. I'm
Now,
just saying it. I'm just saying it like I love Isaac.
I don't
the way
even
he
know
is.
how to
on that
comment
note,
on that.
On
Go
that
on.
note, I want to say a couple things. First off, I actually wouldn't have minded if they'd turned around and had one of the main characters be a traitor or be some kind of a...
Fine.
And it would have worked to have been Isaac, because Isaac, it's been established, comes from a race that considers itself superior
Yeah, but-
to... Now, I
That seems
don't
like a
hate that they
stretch.
turned around and made you understand that Isaac, you know, spoilers,
We'll
but
talk about that after, but like...
because I like Isaac.
I like Isaac too. I think it would be so out of character for an intellectually superior species trying to understand an inferior species to betray them.
Yeah.
That to me seems uncharacteristic. I think
That's
that
why I'm saying it was a little odd for me to
that's
like
the
trust
point.
Isaac when
but
he
at this
was like,
point, everything in the episode's out the fucking window in terms of what
Right.
makes sense. 'Cause
Right.
But also, like, they start fighting and, like, Isaac's eyes turn
Exactly.
red and his voice goes... And you know that it's not
hits him
really
a few
Isaac.
times,
Like, there's
and
something...
then she runs
Well,
off.
that's after that's after they fight for
The
they have a
initial
little
scuffle, but they...
They have like an
She
initial
grabs
scuffle.
a rifle, strips it down. They're like, "I will blast you and kill you." She sees Isaac, threatens to kill him.
Well,
and
no,
then-
that's okay. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Well, that's after
next.
the fight. Then she runs
That's the
out.
first
there's a-
scuffle you were describing. Then the eyes turn red. She shoots him, and then the inner hull is compromised, and she runs again. Then we see through the holodeck, because as she's running now,
Yeah.
it pans out, and the magic is broken. And
The whole
I thought
thing
there
was
was
a
like-
holodeck.
then it's the holodeck
Fucking,
observation part where everyone's watching.
And now I stopped caring.
They're like, we need to shut it down. Turns out Isaac cannot stop the holodeck program. It's not a holodeck. It's just that's what Star Trek calls it. Their simulator.
Whatever,
That's what they call
whatever
it.
it's called.
They're like, we can't stop it because of Directive 38. And then Mercer's like, what? No bare feet in the engineering section? Kelly's like, no, 38 is... Oh, 38. Where we find out this is where the head of security can override the captain's clearance in the event of, like, I don't know, alien influence or extreme alcoholism.
So basically, Alara stuck herself in this simulation to face her fears and told Isaac not
But we
to
don't
let her
know.
out.
And then we find out that using it in this context is a career ender, and it's not a way to use it, right? And then we find out that the only way for her to escape is to finish it.
Because she gave this directive.
Right, and then Alara's tripping, the doors open, Isaac's back, Alara gets into a shuttle.
Fake Isaac, not real Isaac.
Yeah. Isaac gets
Right.
Alara gets into a shuttle. Isaac moves in a giant explosive in front of a shuttle. He shoots it. There's another wall of fire. This is the cheesiest shit. I didn't even catch it till the second time because it was so like, why the fuck was this here the first time? But I get it now.
Right.
Alara goes through the wall of fire and overcomes her big fear and escapes. The Orville is destroyed. She does it. She gets out. The holodeck
sad.
appears. She's like, wait, what the fuck?
Oh, wait, first she's watching the Orville get destroyed and she's all sad. And
Yeah.
She's like, "Meh."
Then they all walk in. She's like, this is simulation. Why would you do this to me? Then she finds out she did it to herself. Then they're back in like Mercer's office. They asked if there was anything else after the fire that doubted her, like in her parents' answer. She was like, no. So she didn't believe her parents and got Isaac to build this creepy simulation of everyone's fear. So there was a memory wipe, which is why she doesn't know what happened between.
And it's also why we didn't see it, right? Technically,
Right.
because we're only seeing
Lara's
what she
episode.
remembers.
And then she lied about why she needed the memory wipe to Claire. She had made it sound like it was for medical secrets, which is bad news bears in the same regard as invoking whatever the Section 38 thing is. Then we find out Lamar's afraid of clowns, Malloy is scared of surgery, Claire's afraid of heights, Kelly is afraid of isolation. Mercer's afraid of spiders, and Bordis is afraid of being conquered by a superior enemy, leading to the best Bordis moment so far. I am feeling very self-conscious.
But you
May
didn't
I
say
please
why
leave?
we find this stuff out. We find it out because Isaac took a survey of what everyone is
you're
afraid
right.
of so that he could put it in this simulation to, kind of probe general fears and see if these are what Alara is afraid
I
of.
did miss that point.
Yeah.
And then she finds out how bad her choice was because it's court-martialable and shit, but they're going to let it slide because she handled it all like a boss, and then there's no more doubt in her mind, and she's like, I'll see you all in the morning, and she goes to sleep looking happy.
Yeah, and
End of
they might as
episode.
well have said, see you next week. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to touch upon a couple
Okay,
things.
now touch upon whatever you want to touch upon.
I liked you
Touch it
made the
good.
fight scene sound so basic. Just gonna say that first
because
off.
plot-wise, it was basic.
The fight scene was pretty cool. There's an initial scuffle back when she first finds out that Isaac knows about the creature, and they have the little thingy, and he's throwing her into walls, and she's throwing him into walls and stuff. Then she ends up knocking him out by repeatedly smashing his head into the computer system thing, and then she runs and gets a shotgun. This is where I found it a little weird because she gets this shotgun plasma thing, and then Isaac turns around the corner. This is where we see the red eyes for the first time.
I did see
foolish girl.
Yeah, so he's like, oh, in the darkness, and then the whole what Syd just did, and she turns around, she's like, I set this to maximum blast. You and I both know it has enough power to vaporize you. And it's like, pew. Some little fucking bullet laser thing that I was expecting
You ever
Isaac
seen
to
that
at
scene
least
in Men in Black with the little tiny gun?
Nah.
my
The
God.
little tiny
The
gun
noisy
blew
cricket.
Will Smith out of the
I
fucking
know.
water and all this
It's
big
just-
explosion.
it's just the opposite.
This is just like, this will vaporize you. Little laser,
whatever.
you get fall to the ground. I was like, okay,
just trivial fluff.
This is whack.
Yeah.
And then
I want to go back and watch Men in Black 2 again. That movie was amazing.
we'll critique that next time.
I
We
don't
will.
know.
Yo, actually, okay.
So you guys can do that one without me.
Sweet.
Let's start with one.
But other than
One is
that,
pretty
they
good
had
too.
this was a really good fight scene that I really liked in terms of what we've seen so far in the episodes. I didn't like how they kind of just let her off like that. I feel like as much as we talk about social issues and how Orville is trying to portray different social issues, listen, if I disobeyed an order
They
and I
didn't
did,
just let her off. They let her off because she, in the process of making a lot of bad things, empirically proved that this girl is Crosby.
I understand.
And so, but that's
But
not,
in the real world, if
No.
you break that
in
many
the real
rules-
world, if you're a top tier salesperson bringing in $500,000 a year and you show up late to work every day on blow, you keep your job. That's how the real world works. I don't know what real world you're describing. Performers win. You can
Yeah.
do whatever the fuck you want if you win. And she won. She proved that. Like, if they were to properly reprimand her and end her career, it would cause diplomatic problems with the homeland. She's a 23-year-old who got fast-tracked into a position she wasn't prepared for. I mean, you could argue how the right move was to
Kill
give
me.
her the pass easily.
Jesus.
Okay.
Freak.
I didn't, that didn't bother me as much as the entire ending bothered me.
Yeah, I get it.
Like,
Oh no, I'm on Syd's team. Why
liked
is
it.
it a freaking?
So
go ahead.
Okay, first, okay, when a show does this or when a film does this, you have to take this plot twist. You have to do it so carefully because it's been done so many other times by so many. Like, I hate Shutter Island. I almost can't watch Fight Club anymore. You know, like people shit praise on Fight Club, and it's like, yeah, but it did that. You know what I mean? Like, and the whole and Seth MacFarlane himself has spoofed this trope, has called it out. There's a season 6 2-part episode of Family Guy where Stewie puts on a fucking
Virtual reality and kills his
thing,
mom.
kills Lois, goes through a whole thing, end of it, takes it off, and Brian, who is Seth MacFarlane, goes, don't you think the audience would have felt cheated if they went through that whole thing and found out that none of it really happened?
Yeah, but
and
I just want to say that I don't know. Like, I'm not saying... Look, I agree that it was a waste of a holodeck episode, is what we're going to call it. I think it was a really interesting idea executed poorly because, you're right, it devalued the whole episode.
Yeah.
There had to be the holodeck episode, so they had to somehow use this simulator in, and they're going to, as long as the show comes out, one episode is going to be dedicated to this thing.
I wasn't done by how much this annoyed me, though.
Okay,
I wasn't
go
done.
on.
I wasn't done because
Holden's like,
there's
stop shitting on my show.
The first 2/3 of the episode actually were pretty brilliant.
Excellent.
And they're building up to, and you know, the part where Claire, I said I wanted to call back to this, the scene where Claire is in the prison and they're all kind of looking at her and she's going, there are things out there in the deep dark of space, you don't see them, but there are terrifying dark things and they're coming, and she's building up to this, like, and I wouldn't even have minded if it was this like ambivalent nice alien force that had picked up on Alara's fear, picked up on her need to prove herself and put her through these trials, you know what I mean? There are
But
other
that would have
ways
been
they
so
could've-
Rick and Morty-ish, or there's something else.
Well,
there's another show that I saw that
Rick
did
and Morty
that.
spoofs this
Well,
fucking
right,
all the time.
Right.
Okay,
but
but
there's
like-
another show that I saw
all
that
I'm
exact
saying
thing where the
is-
alien came and he's like, I live off fear.
Because that
I'm
would
here
have
to
just been
send, like...
Q from Star Trek, and it would have been a little too much.
But this is a cue from Star Trek.
No, this is a holodeck simulator episode. It's not.
But that's the thing. It's like
You're
it's
right.
a
At
holodeck
the end of the
simulator,
day,
only the
it's
last
just-
10 minutes of it. The
What-
rest
what
of it's
we've
all like a fucking roller
We've
coaster.
commented on multiple occasions that a lot of times Seth has just done shit to make the story flow.
Yeah.
And I agree. And I think that it was...
This one is the...
This episode should have been the Alara character growing episode that we had in like episode 3 or 4, when we already went through the Alara's character has to grow episode. And that's my biggest grievance with it. It's kind of like if this was a music album, this is the second time we've had this song appear. Maybe it's a little remixed or whatever, but it's the second time it appeared, whereas it was unnecessary. And this was a better version of the episode than the first one. If they had done this shit in episode 3 or 4, I think it would have been excellent. And they wasted a good world context setting episode, which is what we needed to pivot towards this finale.
But the thing is, and I've called this show out on it a couple times now, is that they tend to take the easy way out and the safe way out. And I felt and I realized, you know, the more I watch it, the more I realize this is primetime Fox. Like, this is 7, 8 o'clock.
Hold on.
Like, they can't be showing
this.
dangerous,
But
idea-changing stuff.
But you know
like,
what?
it has to
and
be
I did
really
say this
safe
to you
ideas.
earlier before we
But
got
they
here.
could have introduced, as an example, another alien species in this episode
Yeah.
to make the world a little more
There's
full.
over like
I would've
100
liked
things they
that.
could
I
have
wouldn't have
done.
minded that so
But
much.
like I said to Syd a little earlier before we were recording, I think it's because they're too busy focusing, and I think Seth MacFarlane is too busy focusing on the meat of the episode in between, that when he reaches the whole, guys, we got 20 to 15 minutes left of recording before, like, we've hit an hour. We need to...
Because the pace
We
of
need to
every
do this.
episode, and keep in mind,
And it works on Family Guy, right?
Hold
Where
on.
they go,
Yeah.
oh, what do we do?
But you know
well,
what? Family
nothing's gonna
Guy
change.
makes
and it's
sense
funny,
because it's
but, like,
cartoons.
I'm gonna
You can
say
kill anybody
that
and it's
the
like
pace
whatever.
of
Yeah.
every Orville episode has been the same. It's been this curve of like 30 minutes of context to a 15-minute finale point. And when they've hit it right, it's amazing. And when they missed it, it hasn't been. But this isn't new. They've done it all 10 episodes.
No, yes, I'm not
But
saying
this-
it's not
yeah.
new. I'm just
And
saying,
so
like,
because
okay,
we've had
find a way
other-
to maybe,
But
like...
they did, is what I'm saying. In other episodes where we were sitting here
Yes.
praising the ending, they pulled it off. In this one, you're right. The ending devalued the entire beginning of it. And I'm just adding that it was a wasted season arc plot point because it was an unnecessary episode.
Yeah.
However, I don't hate that I watched it. It wasn't like it was bad. I watched it twice. I thought it was still good.
It was a good piece of genre fiction up until they took away all the tension.
And it was
Like-
it was just such a waste of a simulator episode. Like, they could have had an episode where they introduced, as an example, a new alien species to the show, as I've said, and had him go on this wonky holodeck adventure exploring some, I don't know, Earth culture thing, like a Grand Theft Auto spoof or some crap like that, and made it super ridiculous. Hell, that's an episode, Seth. If you see this, fucking do that.
Because
I'd watch that.
It's becoming very apparent that the show
Has no-
this one major flaw that the show has is that it subverts some more interesting plot lines, more interesting character introductions to stick with what's safe.
Also, there's no real global season story arc.
Yeah, and that's, for first seasons that tends
But
to
that's
happen.
okay.
But
Season 2,
but-
there's gonna be like a full like.
Yeah.
I'm
this is the
certain that's
whole-
gonna happen, but like this is the kind of show that really isn't properly done on 13 episode seasons, right? Like, and that's to its chagrin, because it's gonna take you 6-7 episodes just to build up everyone's familiarity with everyone. Then you're supposed to take the next 10 episodes to have a couple of these context episodes, maybe a couple fillers, but mostly build out the world a bit, introduce some aliens, some of the more political stuff going on at home. And as much as it might not have to be super thought-provoking, they've gone places that are pretty strong already for Fox primetime, right?
Yeah, but they've done it in.
So
I
keep
don't want
doing
to go
it like
back to
that.
the sex change episode again.
No, but keep doing it like that. That's fine. They also had the Israel-Palestine mentionings. They had a few things that they've managed
They've
to do.
done a few things.
So I'm not. They
like-
can keep doing that. But my point is where's the universe? Like, part of Star
Yeah.
Trek is the fucking universe, and then build up to like a conflict point, like
Yeah, there's
something
no.
bad. And
From what I still think that they're building up to the Krill. I don't know if that episode is going to be displaced.
Well, look,
now.
if they took out episode 13, there's only 2 episodes left, and if the Krill is a main point of it right now.
See, what I would love to see happen if they're like this, and you said they're not going to do it, but what would be amazing is to do what Star Trek did and have it be like the finale was 2-part episodes, the season finale was part 1, the season premiere was part 2. That
Yeah.
would be dope. And then you could have your crazy ass Krill thing, meet your schedule, and keep a proper story. And yeah, that's going to be probably the case, but it's just strange that, like, by now there's no other players really in the game. It's just this one ship. There's not
Yeah.
even another anything really.
Well, they brought in another the SS Olympus. They showed that there's an extended branch of a fleet.
yeah.
I will bring up another sci-fi show. I brought up Fringe earlier at the beginning of the episode. If you watch through the first season of Fringe, a lot of it is very episodic, and then there's kind of hints of like an overarching villain, but he doesn't really have too much of an impact until the very end of
you're
the
right.
season. And the second season of Fringe is amazing with that. Like they start
You know
building
what
their
it
story
is?
right
away.
away.
I'm just
So-
used to like stuff like Stargate and Star Trek where
Yeah.
it is 24 episode seasons, and so you can take half the season to set the world and then half the season to build up, and then season 2 is just the crazy. Anyway, so I just think we're kind of moving on. And anyway, thank y'all for watching.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Remember, if you like, subscribe, and comment, you can do the contest thing, and somebody's going to win money and some requesting privileges. On that note, let us know what you think about either the Orville or us, and we do love your criticism and your feedback. Feel free to offer any suggestions on how to improve.
Don't forget, if you guys end up tweeting me on Twitter, I will always shout you guys out a couple of
Always.
tweets on the next show.
What he's saying is he wants his first one, so let's do Chris a favor and get him his
Send me a
first tweet to put
and then
on.
I will shout it out on the
Tweet
next
him
thing.
or Instagram him
Or
or Facebook him.
Snapchat,
Expand
Instagram,
it, yo.
everything.
I don't know what he is on all platforms.
Well, those the 3
We'll
main
link
ones
to
down
it.
there.
There'll be a
It's right
link.
there, all down
the-
there.
all the ones that
Talk
count.
to me, and you never know, I might start my own little video thing, having
Yeah,
a
he will
conversation
start
with
it
you
one
guys.
day. All right.
Maybe a little.
Peace. Bye.